All I did was eat one extra lychee at the imperial banquet, and the emperor had both my legs broken, my entire family exiled to Ninguta. I knelt in the snow, kowtowing and begging for mercy. He only found me tiresome, and with a casual wave of his hand had me thrown out of the palace. The very next day after leaving the palace, I breathed my last from blood loss. It wasn't until 3 years after my death that the emperor finally remembered me, his deposed empress. He personally led troops to the frontier, had his men surround my father, and tried to force me to return to the palace with him. What I hadn't anticipated was that he only wanted to take the flesh from above my heart as a medicine ingredient, to save his beloved favored consort. My father brought him before my memorial tablet, and told him I was already dead. He only let out a cold laugh, face full of impatience, telling him to stop playing these tedious games with us. We did nothing more than break her limbs. Surely she doesn't intend to hide from us forever. Tell her not to be so selfish. We are only taking a little of her heart's blood. It won't kill her. A richly dressed man stood in the biting cold wind, utterly out of place against the surrounding desolation. He surveyed the dilapidated, crumbling courtyard with contempt, and gave a cold snort. Where is Su Wanren? Tell her to come out. The courtyard gate slowly opened. My father shuffled out with unsteady steps, lifted his clouded eyes, and looked at Song Huichuan with calm composure. How gracious of your majesty to make the journey in person. What a pity. My Wanwan died 3 years ago. Song Huichuan fixed him with a look of utter revulsion, and could not suppress a cold laugh. A woman as vain and shallow as she is, how could she bring herself to simply die? She must have found out our Yuer's life hangs by a thread, and that her heart's blood is needed as a medicinal catalyst. So she deliberately went into hiding, intending to let Yuer die, and force us to take her back into the palace. He raised his eyes and looked around, the frost in them deepening with every passing moment. Suwan, we shall see just how long you can keep hiding. With that, he shoved the old man out of his way, and barged straight into the house. The small and bare little room was flung into chaos as he ransacked it. Even my and mother's memorial tablets were thrown aside without a second thought. My father's eyes instantly went red. He staggered forward, trying to throw himself over and protect our tablets, but was pinned to the ground by guards and could not move. He could only cry out in desperate, helpless anguish. My Wanwan is already dead. Please, your majesty, do not disturb her peace. My father's words ignited a towering fury in Song Huichuan. He turned around and brought his boot down hard onto my father's face. We only had her hands and feet gravely wounded. How could she have died from that? Deceiving the emperor is a capital offense. We advise you to hand her over at once, or do not blame us for setting aside all past sentiment. My chest constricted. He was not entirely wrong. He had only ordered that I be gravely wounded in my limbs and expelled from the palace. That alone would not have taken my life, but he seemed to have forgotten that on that night I had already been poisoned, and when I was beaten out through the palace gates, I was barely clinging to life. He stood upon the palace wall, deaf to my pleas, and had me dragged into the Yihong courtyard. There I was tormented through an entire night, and drew my last breath in humiliation and degradation. Seeing that my father remained completely silent, Song Huichuan drew his sword with a savage expression and held it to his throat. Don't think that because you guard the frontier for us, we would not dare touch you. Yuer is our life itself, out of regard for the favors of the past. We shall give you 5 more days. If Suwan refuses to emerge in 5 days, we will have your entire family buried with Yuer. With a look of pure contempt, Song Huichuan drove the sword into my father's shoulder, then left with his guards without a backward glance. Watching his retreating figure, I could not stop myself from rising to my feet. If my father and brothers had not fought to their last breath to protect him, he could never have ascended the throne. And now, to force me to show myself, he was willing to use the lives of my entire family as a threat.